Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
The numbers are downright surprising. The top scams affecting people right here in Michigan and how much these high-tech thieves are taking from you. It's coming up in my Help Me Hank report.
It's enough firepower to scare any driver. A new warning from state police about what they're finding after the red lights start flashing on the road.
But we'll begin with breaking news, and that is our first look at the E-Course mother, now charged in the beating of her one-year-old twin sons.
Lisa Marie Reed faces one charge of first-degree child abuse.
Start things off here at 5 with Jason Colthorpe. But Jason, important to note, this charge is just connected to the twin who survived.
Exactly, Devin. The investigation into the death of Zaire Reed is ongoing. Today, we learned the horrifying details of the injuries that his twin brother Zion suffered, and injuries, of course, that required surgery for him to recover. And we're not talking about one-time injuries here. Investigators are now classifying this as long-term abuse. 34-year-old Lisa Reed charged today with first-degree child abuse of her 13-month-old son, Zion Reed. His injuries were discovered by police after his twin brother Zaire was taken to the hospital, where he died.
They did both observe multiple injuries on Zion Reed's left eye and had a severe blood vessel burst. Both ears were severely swollen and dry blood covered them. His lower lip was cut open, and his left cheek was severely swollen, and it was deeply bruised.
Zion was then rushed to the hospital.
Zion Reed's trauma to his head and ears were very apparent. Also, Zion Reed had black and white scarf wrapped around his hip. When the nurses removed it, Zion Reed began to scream. Dr. Solomon then showed the x-ray, which revealed Zion Reed's left femur was broken.
In addition to his left thigh bone being broken, both clavicles were broken, and Zion's ears were injured so badly, investigators concluded he'd been picked up by his ears.
That broken femur and two broken clavicles, I hate to say it, I think she should be remanded.
And Reed was remanded, by the way, and I just want to point out, police stressed this, that to break a baby's leg is impressive in the fact that it takes a great amount of force because babies' bones are so flexible. But this investigation, as we mentioned, is not over. The police are expecting a first-degree murder charge eventually in the death of Zaire, either against Reed or her live-in boyfriend, or both. Remember, the live-in boyfriend is the one who fled from the hospital the day all this happened and was arrested about 10 hours later at an uncle's residence. Of course, we'll be following it all. Reporting live, Jason Colthorpe, Local 4.
All right, Jason. Our other top story here at 5. Michigan State Police are warning drivers about a massive uptick in guns seized during traffic stops.
From April 30th to today, 103 guns have been seized. Now compare that to the same time period last year when 28 were taken off the streets. Victor Williams joins us live tonight. Victor, what are they attributing this to?
Well, just people who are out there on the streets who are they're pulling over. Those numbers are really unsettling, and what they're trying to do is work even harder to make sure they get even more of these weapons out the street because they know that they're out there, and hopefully by doing that they can prevent some of those freeway shootings that we've been seeing in the recent weeks.
Isn't designed for protection. That was designed to help commit a crime.
It's hard to believe all these came from simple traffic stops on the freeway.
These are everyday folks that are driving around with illegal guns.
Between April and July 30th of this year, 103 illegal weapons were seized on highways surrounding the Metro Detroit area.
We're as amazed as anybody else is. These are speeding stops. These are stops where somebody was swerving in their lane and maybe had open intox in their vehicle.
Quite the high number considering the fact that last year around this same time, that number was only 28.
It's just the sign of the times right now.
The seizures aren't just happening here in the state of Michigan, but all over the U.S.
And it's not just us. It's not just the city of Detroit. This is a violent uptick, across the country.
Which is why police are stressing it's best to avoid a road rage incident, especially on the freeway.
Whenever you introduce a firearm to a situation such as a road rage, bad things are bound to happen. So that's why it's imperative that we continue to try to get these guns off the street.
Now, recently there have been a total of 15 freeway shootings to take place in our area, but the good news is that state police have so far made gains on 10 of them. Reporting live tonight, Victor Williams, Local 4. Back to you.
So, Victor, what's going to happen to all of those guns?
Well, they'll be taken to the lab to see if they can have any type of connection to any other crimes, and then after that, they're going to be destroyed.
Yeah. All right, Victor, reporting for us live. We appreciate it.
Let's turn to today's coronavirus numbers. The state reporting 715 new cases and 19 additional deaths. State says 14 of today's reported deaths come from a review of past records. We've seen that happen on a number of occasions. We've got a closer look at hospitalizations, testing, and more. It's all at our website at clickondetroit.com.
Warren Consolidated Schools is taking action after a staff member tests positive for coronavirus during summer school classes. The district says students and staff were moved from where the positive staff member worked. They did not say which school. The district also cleaned all affected areas where people could have been exposed. They're asking all students and staff to watch for symptoms and stay home if they don't feel well.
Like so many things during the pandemic, it hasn't gone to plan. Governor Whitmer's phased-in approach to reopening Michigan seems to have gone forward and then backward a bit.
Yeah, so right now, bars are closed, salons are open, casinos are going to reopen, but gyms aren't. It's confusing. The back and forth is really creating a lot of uproar. So we wanted to get our Sean Lay in here to help us make sense of it all. Sean, at this point, it's almost hard to just keep track.
We've been thinking of ways to describe this to really break it down for people all day long. The easiest way is up north, right behind me that way, where we all love to go, plus the UP. The governor last night confusing people, but did put in some restrictions there up north on some bars and on some gatherings. Here at home, however, she is allowing next week the casinos to open. So just imagine if you are trying to plan a wedding or run a small business.
It's tough. It's really tough.
Matt McGrail and his dream business, Corktown Restaurant and Bar Cork and Gable, is just getting by. From staffing to sales, it is so tough.
Just hanging on. And luckily, my partner, he's helping us out. The PPP loan is still helping us out, but that's about to run dry.
Also tough keeping up and keeping track of Governor Whitmer's executive orders. Right now, Regions 6 and 8 up north and the UP are in Phase 5, and all other regions, including Metro Detroit, are in Phase 4. But the entire state is covered by executive orders issued last night.
The bars and the nightclubs and such that have 70% alcohol sales, they have to close.
The concern, crowds. The governor moving up north counties to limit 10 people per indoor gathering. Full-on bars that don't serve food must be outdoor only. Detroit casinos can open at 15% capacity and lots of safety measures. In Detroit, there's concern about young people.
Young people are not immune. They have to make sure they wear masks.
When the city's health chief, Denise Fair, called Greektown a hotspot, she meant for crowds, not for COVID transmission. She is worried not enough young people up north and here at home are taking safety seriously. Mike Crosby told us his views near downtown.
I don't believe in COVID-19. If a fiend that's outside every day ain't got COVID, how am I going to catch it?
So a lot to unpack here, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people asking why, if you're restricting some bars, why open casinos? But that also means jobs. So Detroit casinos can reopen starting mid next week. MGM says they'll open next Friday. And at the same time, the big concern here is crowds up north and here. We're live tonight. Sean Lay, Local 4, back to you.
All right, Sean. Today, the funeral for Congressman John Lewis going on in Atlanta. Detroiters held their own memorial for Lewis, the longtime civil rights activist and civilian.
The tribute was downtown at Spirit Plaza. Speakers and guests remembered Lewis and C.T. Vivian's lives and work in advancing civil rights. President Obama gave both the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and Obama mentioned Vivian during Lewis's eulogy. Much more on today's funeral ahead on the news coming up at 5:30.
First time in U.S. history, a sitting president is suggesting delaying an election. Today, President Trump tweeted, quote, "Delay the election until people can properly, securely, and safely vote." This comes as new numbers show the extent of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy. Susan McGinn is tracking it all from the nation's capital. Susan.
Americans already struggling with the effects of coronavirus.
When COVID happened, I had no money.
Getting a new dose of dire economic news. The U.S. economy putting in its worst performance on record, shrinking last quarter by nearly a third. More than 30 million Americans now collecting some form of unemployment.
The pace of the recovery is slowing dramatically and may even be stalling.
The president and his team insisting the economy is rebounding in a V-shaped recovery.
We expect a much stronger third quarter and second half of the year.
But for millions, hard times could soon get much harder, with supplemental unemployment benefits running out tomorrow. On Capitol Hill, negotiations on a new relief package remain at a stalemate.
To think this is going on when we have up to 30 million Americans about to see a dramatic cut in their unemployment benefits is just unforgivable.
Meanwhile, news today that Herman Cain, former Republican presidential candidate, has died of coronavirus. A prominent supporter of President Trump, he tweeted a photo of himself without a mask at a controversial campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on June 20th. He tested positive just 9 days later. The White House says there's no way of telling where or how Cain may have been infected. While Americans worry about what tomorrow will bring, President Trump looking ahead to November, tweeting with no evidence mail-in balloting is rife with fraud, suggesting the election be delayed, something he has no power to do.
In Washington, Susan McGinnis, Local 4.
Well, we are off and running here on the News at 5. Let's check in with Ben.
Kim and Devin, we're setting the thermostat to comfortable here for the next several days. Temperatures will be the least of our concerns, but man, we could use some water. We'll look at our chances for the weekend coming up.
Should hazardous materials be allowed to be transported across the Ambassador Bridge? What happens if something goes wrong?
On my end, I'm just prepared to respond.
The defenders with the proposal and what it means to residents throughout Metro Detroit. Coming up.
Tracking scams across the country and right here in Detroit. The numbers are in, they're surprising, and we'll show you what you can do to protect yourself. Coming up.